All right. Hey, it looks like we got some folks logging on right now. We're really excited to get kicked off and talk about SMS. We'll give just one more second for any last folks to jump in, and then we will kick off. We're going to run about 30 minutes today. All right, it's 2:01, so I'm just going to go ahead and get us started so we don't keep anybody over time. Just want to say a huge thank you all so much for joining us today. I don't think I'm going to need to tell anyone here about the importance of SMS. It's a channel that we've really seen truly take off, and it's led to just enormous growth for so many nonprofits. So today we're really excited to share how MissionWired worked with Save the Children and Americares to drive really huge scale during critical moments, and how you can get your SMS program ready for the end of the year. And now, before we jump in, I do just want to take a quick moment and introduce our speakers today. I'll get us started. I'm Duncan, Stewart, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a senior vice president at MissionWired. And I'll pass right over to Khadijah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Khadijah Naeem. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm an associate vice president here at MissionWired, and I can pass it over to Chloe.
Hi, yeah, thanks for joining. I'm Chloe Drescher. My pronouns are also she, her, and I am the demand generation advisor at Save the Children. And last but not least, Alyssa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alyssa Bunzel. I use pronouns she, her, and I am the digital marketing manager of direct response here at Americares.
All right, and now we just have a quick look at our agenda for today. So we're going to start with sharing some key definitions and an overview of how SMS programs work, and then Chloe and Alyssa are going to dive into case studies. We're going to wrap up today by talking about if SMS is right for your organization. Spoiler alert, it almost certainly is. And then we are going to leave some time at the end for questions. I think Maya just posted a quick update, but you can submit those in the Q&A field, and then we'll be able to see them and respond back. I'm going to pass over to Khadijah to get us kicked off.
Thank you, Duncan. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty, I really wanted to just take a quick minute to have a very high-level look at SMS and the impact of SMS in the nonprofit industry and the digital fundraising space. Last year, last year's end of year, MissionWired published an end of year report, and that's where these stats are pulled from. And for our clients specifically, we saw that $4 million raised over SMS during end of year 2024. That was a 20% year over year increase. And in terms of actual SMS volume, we saw that organizations sent on average 11 SMS messages during end of year 2024. And the reason I wanted to highlight these stats in particular is because we are approaching giving season. It is right on the cusp, just in a couple of months here, and SMS is going to be such an incredibly useful tool during this time. We saw that incredible growth between 2023 and 2024, and we anticipate that growth to just grow even more exponentially this year as well. Now, before we get into some really amazing case studies by Save the Children and Americares, just want to start and take a step back and look at some definitions on SMS. Want to acknowledge that people might be joining this webinar from different experience levels, and so we're just going to start by giving a few quick definitions on different types of texting. So wanted to start by highlighting broadcast and short code SMS. This is oftentimes, if you have a really established SMS program, your organization is going to hopefully have a broadcast program. This is where you have a unique 5-digit phone number for your organization. It's a very cost-effective way to text, and your supporters will grow to know your organization really well through this type of communication. Next, we have P2P or long code texting. These are texts that come from a 10-digit phone number, usually registered, and you can text any phone number in your file, regardless of opt-in status. Of course, when someone opts out, that's their indication that you should no longer communicate with them. And this is a really useful tool during major moments, including Giving Tuesday, end of year, and rapid response. Finally, and this might be a tool that most folks haven't heard of, and it might not be on your radar yet, so I really want to highlight this one. We have SMS rentals. This is an acquisition-specific tool with which you can rent phone numbers and text them with the goal of acquiring them and moving them over either into that P2P program or ultimately that broadcast short code program. And we have a really great tool called Mission SMS that you're going to hear about a lot today, and that's in that SMS rentals bucket. And with that, we can dive into some really great case studies. So I can kick it over to Chloe to walk us through this case study for Save the Children.
Yeah, thanks, Khadijah. So at Save the Children, we're always looking for ways to diversify supporter acquisition strategy. And one of the things we always consider is meeting people where it's potential supporters where they are and where are they on their phone because we're all on our phone all the time. And the nice thing about SMS is that it's an immediate and action-driven tool, and it also provides us direct personal responses that and forms a connection with our potential supporters. So we've partnered with MissionWired on paid SMS acquisition, the MissionWired product. And when we did, we started to be able to get acquire high quality, high value donors and audiences who were already primed to give. So using these list rentals, we've used them for about 2 years now. We've been able to convert over 2,000 new donors with an ROI between 80 to 120%, and in some cases, even 150%. So for us, it's not really about if it works because we know that the list rentals and Mission SMS does work. What we really want to do is continue to set ourselves up for success through the key strategies that we'll go over in the next slide. So there's been three major keys for success for us. The first is infrastructure. So we've set up infrastructure both technically and organizationally so that text can be deployed on time, fast, especially during key emergencies and flash in the pan moments. We want to be able to launch within hours, not days, to capitalize on donor interest. So we work with MissionWired pretty swiftly to know if a text is working, especially, or if it's not working, and want to be able to scale to that larger audience. Ultimately, it's about being first in someone's inbox and being top of mind. The second is messaging. So we have a pretty healthy email and broadcast team, and we leverage the top performing content that we see on email and broadcast. You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time you put out a message. It's easy to just use what we know works. But when we do work with MissionWired on creating new texts for other moments that may not be necessarily an emergency, we really try to be urgent and clear on our messaging and really try to use a human tone as much as possible so that it feels like it's coming from someone and not a robot. And then lastly, being nimble on budgets. Flexibility is key. If something works, we want to be able to shift budget into that. And kind of going back to the first point, being really able to scale and having that ability to be quick with decision making and look at real-time results leads us to maximizing that ROI to that 80, 120, 150%. So altogether, these strategies are really what makes SMS and the list rentals one of the most effective ways to acquire new names and new donors and convert them in the long run.
Thank you. If I had the opportunity, I would echo everything that Chloe said, especially for setup. So today I will be sharing how specifically at Americares, we're investing in peer-to-peer and list depends to target our existing donors via text and build up our peer-to-peer file and create that broadcast texting file. So in FY25, we included peer-to-peer budgeting in our operating plan for the first official whole year time. And in our spring and summer match campaigns of that year, we started testing into peer-to-peer by appending phone numbers to our existing donor audience. And we were very happy to see that through these major match campaigns, we were seeing 100% ROI. Very healthy, very good appends. And we know that these donors are already fans of our program and our work. But ultimately, it was this acceptance of peer-to-peer that fiscal year that allowed us to meet two urgent response moments. First, with Hurricanes Helene and Milton. So this was the first major response event where we could test into the list rentals effectively. MissionWired guided our strategy to test and expand high-performing content. So like Chloe mentioned, high-performing content from existing donor audiences and text that came from our performing email content during this time. And we were able to expand these messages to tens of thousands of brand new eyes that were already primed and ready to give by being on these text SMS philanthropy-based rental lists. At that point, we were seeing over 200% ROI from these prospect rental lists. So if you could go to the next slide. Thank you. The second major moment for us came in January of 2025 during our response to the California wildfires. And we were able to take the learnings from the hurricanes and end of year, and we were able to append phone numbers deeper into our existing donor file, which led to the reactivation of deeply lapsed donors for the first time. And then we were also able to quickly test into rental lists. So because we had dipped our toes earlier during an emergency response, we had a sense that rental lists would work well for us, especially during emergency response moments. And again, to Chloe's point about being nimble with the budget, we were able to flex some emergency spend earlier in the year to meet that moment with SMS and peer-to-peer. With both emergencies, we were able to send multiple update messages as we received matching gift offers or deployed teams to the ground. And this kept the messages close to the current news headlines within hours and provided key learning opportunities for the rental names in bite-sized formats that allowed them to convert into our house file donors.
Thank you, Alyssa, and thank you, Chloe. I just want to add that we have seen so much success with both of these partners through SMS over the last couple of years, and all of that stems from our partnership and getting to work with such amazing clients who are responsive and work so well with us. And it really does work in tandem. So Chloe and Alyssa both mentioned the ability to get out the door so quickly in hours versus days. And that really comes from both sides. And we're really grateful for that partnership and being able to drive these results. So now that you've heard a couple of really fantastic case studies, you might be wondering if SMS is the right solution for you. And the answer is always yes. As we've talked about, there are so many different ways to text. SMS is truly such a versatile channel. It's still an emerging channel. It's still a channel that folks haven't broken into yet, so there's a lot of space to get in there. And we just really want to ensure that as we go into giving season this year, every single organization has the opportunity to maximize their leverage, especially in a year that's been so tough for fundraising. A lot of organizations have faced these federal funding cuts. There's been a lot in the news that has made fundraising for certain organizations harder. So SMS can be a really, really impactful tool for your organization in this moment specifically. And we'd love to dive into some really specific ways. So we want to make sure that that you get a takeaway here that is helpful and useful for your organization. So we're going to walk through a few really specific ways to implement SMS if you haven't gotten started already, and hopefully, and if you have, also maybe some ideas of how to level it up again as we head into giving season. So we're going to walk through how you can use P2P and long code texting, because P2P and long code texting have the least amount of barriers to entry. And so even though it's October and hopefully you all are already ahead on your Giving Tuesday and end of year plans, these are things that you still can implement. We can hop over to the next slide, and I want to just jump into these steps one by one. So step one is identifying your long code vendor. There are lots of vendors out there, including MissionWired. Definitely talk to your agency, your peers. You can also come to us with questions, but that's definitely step number one, is identifying your long code vendor. Next, you'll want to identify your audience, who you want to reach via SMS for certain campaigns. So we've talked about a few different audiences here. With Americares, we were able to start by appending phone numbers for their donor audience, knowing that these are folks who already have a relationship with Americares, who will be really responsive, and you'll see really high immediate returns. So that's a great option to start with. You can also append email prospects. So these are folks who have already seen some level of communication, might be engaging, but just haven't taken that step because they might not be receiving the communication from the right channel yet. And then finally, you can also leverage list rentals to completely expand your horizon into new leads. And that would be a great option if you are looking to really invest in acquisition and grow your file from scratch during a major moment like Giving Tuesday and end of year. If we hop over to the next slide, the next step in the process would be setting a budget. The really great thing about SMS is you can spend as little or as much as you want and as many resources as your organization has to work with. You can have a $500 budget. You can have a $500,000 budget. It's really flexible. So I would definitely encourage you to think about what kind of budget you might be able to set for Giving Tuesday and end of year this year, and have that on the table. So once you set your budget, you can also work with your partners and your vendors to set ROI targets that feel right. So if you have specific goals for acquisition or conversion or immediate revenue that you need to have on hand, you should definitely have those conversations. Once all of that is in place, we get to the fun part, which is actually deploying SMS. So like both Chloe and Alyssa talked about, it's definitely not reinventing the wheel. If you have content that is working really well on email, just shorten that up a bit, translate that over to SMS, and you'll be ready to go. Would definitely recommend testing on every message that you are deploying. So SMS is a little bit more of an expensive channel compared to email, for example. So you want to make the most out of every message that you send. We recommend that you have about 2 to 3 variants for every message. Those could be testing length. They could be testing including a graphic. They could be testing a hook. There's a lot that you can test, but definitely recommend that you do test on every message so that when you do finally get to scaling, you are using the best and most optimized message possible. So finally, if you are seeing really great results on that initial test, then you are ready to scale. So if we hop over to the next slide, once you have tested, usually you want to wait about anywhere from like a few hours up to 24 hours. Sometimes texts take a little bit longer to see the full scale and scope of those results. Once you gauge your results, you can move beyond that testing phase. So you can take all of those learnings, take the top performing message, measure those out against your budget and your ideal returns on investment, and you can scale. So like we've talked about with Chloe and Alyssa, we have had really major opportunities to scale up to 5 and 6 figures using all of those tools in our toolbox from those initial 4 steps. So if you are seeing really strong performance, you can just hit the ground running. But also, if you're not seeing strong performance, it's okay to take a beat, pause. You don't have to scale. You can test more content and get there eventually. So like I said, SMS is really, really flexible. It works for everyone in some capacity. And there are all of these tools here. And again, we'll send this deck to everyone who's joining. We'll make it accessible on our LinkedIn. But these, I hope, are really helpful tools as you are thinking about how to leverage SMS for Giving Tuesday and end of year.
And Khadijah, could I just quickly add, that's what the last thing you said, I think, is what makes MissionWired in particular a really great partner is that not everything works all the time. And they're very transparent and honest about if a message is not working. And either, if it's a flash in the pan moment, maybe it's not worth it to continue. And then just trying to kind of brainstorm other ways to engage these audiences and think of other moments. So obviously, like it's great when things scale and it's great when things work, but it's also important, I think, have a partner that, can recognize when things aren't working. And again, that's where testing becomes so important.
Chloe, you just set me up so incredibly for this next slide. So thank you so much for that. So we've talked a lot about getting your program started. We've shared some great case studies. Thank you again, Chloe and Alyssa, for talking through the success that you'll have seen. But just very quickly before we turn over to questions, just wanted to talk a little bit about how we can help. And what I'd really emphasize here is, yes, it is October 16th. Yes, I feel like Giving Tuesday is tomorrow, but there is still time to get an SMS program up and running. And there's absolutely still time to tap into peer-to-peer and rentals. So if you are looking to get an SMS program up and running, MissionWired is here to help. We are very happy to consult and offer feedback on your current SMS program, including content audits, including full partnership to manage that program. We're very excited to help you leverage data from our digital co-op so that you can find the best possible SMS targets on your current file. That's really, really great if you think about budget considerations, making sure that you are sending to the folks who are most optimized to respond over SMS. And then we're also be very excited to onboard your program into Mission SMS so you can acquire those new donors via texting during Giving Tuesday and end of year. I'll just note that this is the most optimized time to be sending out those messages, to be launching a peer-to-peer program. This is the moment, and we are here and very excited to help you get started. All right. I'm going to stop us on this slide then, and we can take a look into the chat and see if we have some questions to answer. And we have one to start with. Thank you, Shannon. So we're asking, what legal considerations did you face when starting your SMS journey in list rentals, and how did you surface those to leadership? Chloe and Alyssa, I'd be really interested in y'all's take on this and kind of how you talked about this internally and how you discuss within your teams, why SMS, what's going to be, make this a really compelling program to invest in.
I can start. I would say that we, as an organization, obviously, we have a lot of considerations, as any other nonprofit does, about private information and privacy, and everything like that. So we work very, very closely with our legal team in terms of contracts. So whenever we sign, on a new vendor or we're doing more work with one, we always make sure that we walk through this with our legal team pretty with a fine-tooth comb. And in terms of giving this to leadership, I think that the nice thing about Save the Children, it's a very testing forward organization. And if we can prove that there is an opportunity for high value donor acquisition, leadership is likely to give us, the go ahead for a test. So I would say that that is kind of a lucky place for Save the Children to be in. But yeah, I think just being able to prove and also bringing forth like other market research on SMS acquisition, if that's something that your leadership is a little bit more interested in. But yeah, I would say that's kind of where Save the Children is at for now.
Yeah, for us, with the legality side, MissionWired, as well as other texting vendors, so the ones that actually send the messages out, they were very well informed and helped guide us on what terms and conditions we needed to update in both our donation form footer, the terms and conditions on our website policies, and we were able to work with them and legal and leadership to make sure that all of these things made the most sense for what we were doing. Americares is also already a part of list rental services with the digital co-op as well with other programs. And so we already had a little bit of that rental base language inside of our terms and conditions, which was nice to have. But again, we're also a very test forward, and we were able to test this, I believe it December of 2023. We tested some peer-to-peer texting for end of year. We saw the potential and we were able to work it into the fiscal year budget for growth.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. We've got two questions that are both around content. So, Khadijah, I feel like these are ones that you can answer in your sleep. But two sort of similar. So, one about what are the biggest tips for making texting out at end of year when everyone's inboxes are so full? Great question. I think it's top of mind for a lot of people right now. And then generally, you talk a little bit more about what kinds of messaging you see perform well over text versus email and how to take that top performing email and turn it into a text.
These are fantastic questions, and content is really a tricky piece to navigate. But first of all, I just want to emphasize what we talked about earlier about testing, because Every SMS program is going to be different. It's going to be unique to your organization, and something that might work for one org may not fit for yours. So that's why I recommend testing. Some organizations see a lot of success with really short and sweet text. Some organizations see success with longer staff sign texts. Some organizations see success with texts that use images. So it is definitely not one size fits all. When it comes to translating your top performing emails to text, I definitely encourage you to figure out what about that content made it perform so well on email. Was it the tone? Was it the hook? Was it the signer? And try to translate that onto SMS, because what works for your organization is that authenticity to your organization, and that'll translate just as well on SMS. So as long as your content is feeling authentic to your organization and resonates with your audience, I think you'll see a lot of success.
All right, fantastic. I think we have time for about one more question. So I'm going to jump into this is a really great one. Thank you for asking this, Becky. Also great to see you. Have we run into any issues with the iOS updates? So this is a really great question, one that I think is top of mind for a lot of organizations right now. I can say like fairly generally, no. It's very early days, so I do not want to say that and say like nothing's going to change. I think that there's a lot that we still don't know. It's a very similar situation to back in, I believe it was 2021, when a lot of iOS updates and Apple Mail updates were affecting email open rates. Generally, what we would say is, number one, it's just really important to just be monitoring changes. Keep an eye out, see if all of a sudden you're seeing some dips in response rate, anything else like that, and investigate. But right now, we're not seeing that with a lot of our partners. What we are recommending is that organizations do send out via your short code program a message asking to be added to contacts. I think a lot of folks here have probably already gotten those messages from any SMS programs you're subscribed to. That's a really important thing, just to make sure that you are continuing to land in their SMS inboxes and making sure you're still coming through there. This is something that we're monitoring really, really closely and putting out guidance with all of our partners as we see changes, if there's more information that's coming out. But as of right now, it is looking like that is not going to, dramatically change the landscape of peer-to-peer. But we'll certainly be quick to share if we see anything looking different. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. We're so glad to be able to share this, to have folks be able to join us today. Again, if you do have any questions on SMS in general, Mission SMS, anything that we shared here, please reach out to Khadijah or myself. Would be more than happy to chat through it. And just a huge thank you again to Chloe and Alyssa for joining us today. We were so glad that we got to share this and hear a little bit more from you all about the impact SMS has made for your programs.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.